Yo, what's going on people? It's your boy Huncho back at you again with another video. And so for this next one, we've got to head over to Cardiff, South Wales. But to start this story off, we actually need to head over to North London and rewind the timeline back to 2014, where we're introduced to a man known as Alfie Larkin. At this point, he was just 18 years old, and after getting into a verbal altercation with a man and his girlfriend who had just left a funeral, Alfie took it upon himself to stab the man a number of times. Just over a year later, in November of 2015, he would go on to fire a crossbow at another man before stabbing him 3 times over a debt in connection with the supply of drugs. In this situation, he left the victim needing surgery, and the injuries were described as life-changing. It isn't clear whether he went to jail over both of these incidents, but what we do know is that after that 2015 incident, he would go on to spend a short spell in jail, where it did seem as if he wanted to make a real change in the right direction, as he secured himself a computer science scholarship at the Cardiff Metropolitan University. In 2017, he would go on to be released from jail and headed over to Cardiff in an attempt to put his past behind him and move forward with his life. In the first year, everything was said to have gone well, but he was short on one thing, and that was money. We don't know what he did for money in that first year, but you can only assume that maybe he had some kind of part-time job, like a lot of other university students. As the second year came around in 2018 though, Alfie would get himself involved with the students' drug scene and would be introduced to party drug dealers by the names of Sully and Ash. He would quickly seize the opportunity to make some quick drugs money and became a driver for the pair, earning around £500 a week. In a very short space of time though, the pair would give him 2 party drugs phones, which would now see him earn around £1,000 a day, 14 times more per week than what he'd been earning as a driver. In what's been described by police as a large-scale drugs operation within the student population, Alfie would go on to sell cocaine, ketamine and ecstasy, but although yes, you do earn some fast money as a drug dealer, there's also some massive negatives that come with the territory, one of them being rival drug dealers. Believe it or not, the North London native who secured himself a university scholarship would be caught up in a South Wales drugs turf war between 2 rival gangs, and in November of 2018 he himself would be the subject to an attack due to the feud. In November of 2018, Alfie would go on to be rammed off the road by a van whilst driving a gold BMW, and would then go on to be stabbed in the hand with a machete. He presented himself in hospital with these injuries, and when questioned by police, he would go on to tell them pretty much what we've just gone over, but would go on to say he didn't know who stabbed him. Of course, as you guys know though, it was in fact rival drug dealers. So with Alfie now fully involved in this turf war after being attacked, in his mind he only had one thing, and that was to get back at these rival drug dealers for what they had just done to him. Around 2 months later, on the 12th of January 2019, Alfie would get into a Volkswagen Passat and would drive to an address on Greenway Road in Rumney. When he gets there, witnesses hear several loud bangs and then a car leaving the scene. That's right, if you didn't guess it by now, Alfie had gone to the address, wound his window down, let several shots off, I believe it's 9 to be exact, with a gram power 9mm handgun at the address of rival drug dealers before making his escape. In more detail, gunshot holes were found in a motorhome and vehicles parked in the driveway of the property, whilst 9 bullet casings were found at the scene. Less than an hour after the shooting, Alfie would take it upon himself to remove the vehicle from his insurance policy, but that wouldn't be enough because when police started to investigate the situation, he'd been spotted on CCTV near the area at the time of the shooting, and given the fact this went down at night, and then Alfie removing the vehicle from his insurance policy, it was enough suspicion to link him to the shooting. So as you'd expect, he would go on to be arrested in connection with the incident, but believe it or not, he was actually bailed, more than likely due to the only thing currently linking him was that he was picked up in the area on CCTV. When he was arrested though, 2 iPhones had been seized by police along with cash, separated into £1,000 bundles and around £6,000 in designer clothes. It would be then in February of 2019, after taking a trip to Iceland, police would go on to arrest him once again, this time when he touched back down. You see, whilst away, police had examined both both iPhones, and believe it or not, these were the drug lines that he had been running. Police say they were worth around £37,000 to £66,000 over a 44-day period, so I believe when they say that, they mean that he made around that much in a 44-day period. Further inquiries would also lead police to discover the firearm used in the incident at the bottom of a plant pot that had been filled with concrete. Police didn't just smash this plant pot open though, they had took it to the University Hospital of Wales where an x-ray was carried out to confirm the weapon's location, more than likely due to them being concerned that it could fire if they had smashed it open. The gun had been placed in the plant pot by a friend of Alfie's by the name of Rachel Crothers. She herself is a teacher training student and is also believed to have been in similar drug circles as Alfie. When she was arrested by police, she'd been questioned about the initial attack on Alfie and would go on to say that it was, quote, gypsy drug dealers that had been the ones to do it, but later on in court, Alfie still denied these claims, saying that it had been a robbery for his BMW car and a fake Rolex watch. On a quick side note before we continue, Rachel would go on to plead guilty to possession of a firearm and perverting the course of justice. She is yet to be sentenced. Back to the topic at hand though, and after denying the charges brought against him in court, Alfie would go on to say that he denied owning or firing a gun and said that he was shown the gun by Rachel. Describing the interaction in a nutshell, Alfie said, "She said, 'Have you seen a gun before?' She was holding it, it was in a bedroom, I thought it was fake. I said, 'I think that's a toy.' I touched it and put it on my lap." Eventually though, after the trial, Alfie would go on to be found guilty, but the sentencing had to be postponed until a further date due to the fact that the judge said Alfie was a, quote, dangerous individual due to his past convictions and that the jury needed to take those into account. It was then Alfie had been handed a 17-year extended sentence, which means he'll serve 13 years in jail with a 4-year extended license. He'd been handed a 5-year sentence for the supply of cocaine, ecstasy and ketamine, and 8 years for possession of a firearm with intent to cause fear of violence. Now, what should be noted is, at the sentencing hearing, Alfie did in fact go on to say that it had been rival drug dealers that had stabbed him in that initial interaction, and basically came out to say that everything he said on trial was a lie. But that is the story of a North London computer scientist caught up in a Cardiff drugs feud. Now, luckily in this situation, no one died, but people could have definitely gone on to die in this situation, because at the end of the day, Alfie let off 9 shots, I believe, at a property, and say if a freak accident happened where somebody had been walking by or somebody had left the property around the time he was letting the shots off, somebody could have easily died in this situation, but again, luckily they didn't. But let me know what you guys think of this down in the comment section below. Give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.